When my elder brother urged me to propose to my girlfriend, a stream of floating comments suddenly appeared in my mind. The comments were full of whispers. "Junior, don't propose to her. Your girlfriend has already been stolen by your brother. They were just having a steamy session in the dressing room. Your brother is pushing you to propose just to humiliate you in front of everyone." Another voice chimed in. "Take a look at our stunning villainess, Vivian. She's on the verge of tears. If you propose tonight, this yandere succubus Lilith will drag you into her basement and drain you dry 3 whole bottles worth." I was speechless. Vivian was my ex-girlfriend. I had abandoned her after a passionate one-night stand because, frankly, I preferred mature women over someone like her. An hour ago, I had passed by the dressing room and saw my girlfriend, Victoria, wearing a short skirt while sitting on my brother Sebastian's lap. He cradled her in his arms, his fingers teasingly pulling at the thin fabric of her bra. Tilting her chin up, he said, "I've encouraged Sincere to propose to you tonight. Surely you wouldn't have the heart to refuse him, right?" Victoria giggled, her laugh as light as a feather. "If it weren't for him taking care of me tirelessly when I broke my leg 3 years ago, always at my beck and call, even winning my mom's favor, I wouldn't have dated him in the first place. Honestly, he's sweet, but let's call a spade a spade. He's just a pushover. For 3 years he's been obedient enough not to propose. But if he does dare to propose, I'll break up with him on the spot. He's just too boring and dull. Sure, he's good for spending money on me, but marriage? God, that's terrifying." She shuddered at the thought, then gave a coy smile as Sebastian's hand slid up her thigh. "See? I'm the one who knows how to spice things up." Sebastian grinned wickedly. Victoria blushed and playfully pounded his chest with her fist. In the next moment, he pressed his palm to the back of her head and kissed her deeply. That day I sat alone in the storage room, digesting everything until the evening gala began. At the gala, for the first time, I found myself distracted in Victoria's presence. In my hands were a bouquet and an engagement ring. The plan had been simple. I would propose to her tonight because Sebastian had told me he'd seen a tattoo on Victoria's body. Initials that were, coincidentally, SBD, the same as my initials, Sincere Bernard Douglas. I had been ecstatic, but how could I have forgotten? My brother's initials were also SBD. The floating comments returned, mocking me. When Junior proposes to Victoria and gets rejected, he'll collapse in despair. He'll confront her, saying, "But I thought the tattoo was for me." And she'll mock him, saying, "Don't be ridiculous. It stands for Sebastian." These two are scum, manipulating Junior into proposing just to humiliate him in public. They're making him the biggest joke of the evening, ensuring he won't be able to hold his head high for years. Another voice sneered. To them, Junior is just a pawn in their twisted little game. It's disgusting. "Sebastian is the prince of this sweet story," someone added. "He's taken all the fortune and luck that was supposed to belong to Junior. No wonder everything you have he takes from you." I froze, memories flooding back. Of course, Sebastian had always been the golden child. When I was awarded first place in a math competition, he immediately demanded our mom's attention by asking her to top up his gaming credits. When my talent for playing the cello was recognized by my teacher, he insisted on learning it too, only to remain a beginner for years. When we were both set to compete in the same cello competition, I spent months preparing, only for my mom to lock me inside the house on the day of the event. She was afraid my performance ahead of his would put too much pressure on him. Despite my absence, Sebastian still failed miserably. But my parents consoled him with a meal at a 5-star restaurant, completely forgetting I was locked at home. When I became the top student in the state and got admitted to an Ivy League university, Sebastian couldn't even meet the minimum requirements for college. Yet, my parents refused interviews to celebrate my success. When I dared to ask if I'd get any reward, Sebastian cried, and my mom slapped me, scolding me for being inconsiderate. "Your brother is so kind and selfless. You must always take care of him and never upset him," they'd say. Sebastian's so-called kindness was nothing but a facade. He knew I had loved Victoria since we were kids, yet he constantly reassured me, "Don't worry, little brother. Victoria will definitely marry someone like you, someone reliable and honest. But behind my back, he had been dating her, God knows for how long. Sebastian nudged me back to reality. What are you standing around for? Propose to her already. The floating comments swirled faster. Ha ha ha, go ahead and propose. Tonight you'll be drained dry, 3 bottles worth. Someone else chimed in. Vivian is already glaring at him. That look could kill. Junior should just pray for himself at this point. Another voice teased. Well, Junior did kiss Vivian by mistake back then, thinking she was Victoria. And then he had the nerve to say she wasn't good enough and dumped her. No wonder she snapped, turned into a villainess, and prepared an entire basement just to imprison him. I clutched the ring tighter, my mind spinning as the comments cackled around me. I looked at Vivian and swallowed hard. Vivian, the esteemed Lady V, the beloved princess of the elite social circle. I never told anyone that we had dated for a while. Thinking back, our ill-fated relationship was entirely my fault, a consequence of my own recklessness. It all started because I wanted to have a one-night stand with Victoria. Late one night, I invited her for drinks, but I ended up drinking too much myself. After the party, Victoria and Sebastian left together, wobbling their way home, completely forgetting about me. In my hazy state, I mistook Vivian for Victoria. Without a second thought, I leaned in, and we ended up kissing passionately all night. The next morning, Victoria saw the two of us disheveled and asked, "Who's this?" Testing whether Victoria would get jealous over me, I said, "This is my girlfriend." I could feel Vivian's heartbeat quicken with excitement when she heard the word girlfriend. The dim lighting made it hard for Victoria to see Vivian's face clearly. Victoria simply said, "Oh, congratulations," with an indifferent tone. I was speechless. Later I left Vivian with a cruel parting line. "Let's break up. Your kissing is terrible, so your skills must be even worse. I prefer mature women, not someone like you. I don't need you anymore." And then I walked away. My phone was flooded with her messages afterward. "You just leave like that? Are you even a man? I'll give you an hour. Come back to the apartment so we can talk. Where are you? I'll come find you. Please respond to me sincere. Why are we breaking up? I don't want to break up. Is my kissing really so bad? I'm sorry. I'll practice. Please don't leave me." I ignored all her messages, read them all without reply, and finally blocked and deleted her completely. So her hatred toward me is well deserved. I treated her horribly, too horribly. "Sincere, what are you zoning out for?" Sebastian tugged at me, pulling me back to reality. Then he grinned at Victoria and said, "Victoria, Sincere has something he wants to tell you." He leaned in close to me and whispered, "Everything's ready. Just go ahead and propose." This was all an elaborate setup they had planned for me. They even built the stage for the act. All I had to do was propose to Victoria, and she would publicly humiliate me by pouring cold water over my head and announcing that the person she truly loved was Sebastian. She'd tell me to stop being delusional. Because of Sebastian's actions, the attention of the nearby socialites was drawn to the bouquet and engagement ring in my hands. They all quieted down, watching me expectantly. Even Vivian stopped her conversation, her piercing gaze fixed on me. Her fingers curled tightly, her brows knitting together in slight tension. Since they had gone to such lengths to stage this spectacle, I had no choice but to go through with it. Yet, in this situation, I felt stuck between a rock and a hard place. The inner commentary in my mind joked, "Junior, you idiot, just proposed to Raven. If you proposed to her, she'd even willingly give you her soul if you asked for it." Exactly. Propose to her, and who cares about the prince and the princess? If Junior dares to propose to someone else in front of the villainess, he'll probably be drained dry tomorrow. I found the commentary hilarious. After how I had treated Vivian, there was no way she'd accept my proposal. She'd probably be eager to humiliate me publicly instead. But perhaps I owed her that, a chance to get her revenge. So I nodded and said, "Yes, I'm here tonight to propose to someone." Sebastian's smug smile grew even wider. Slowly I lifted the bouquet. "I want to propose to," Victoria sneered and interrupted. "Propose to me? Are you even worthy?" At that moment, I suddenly turned and shouted toward Vivian. "Vivian, may I propose to you?" My abrupt change of plan stunned everyone. The inner commentary erupted. Someone slapped me twice. Am I seeing things? Did Junior seriously just propose to Raven? Holy crap, he really did. He's done for. Back then, he dumped her, saying her kissing was bad and her skills were worse. Vivian's held onto that grudge for years, using that as the breakup reason. He's definitely getting drained dry tonight. Another comment chimed in. "Get ready for storm clouds tomorrow." Vivian stood motionless. I closed my eyes calmly. Of course she wouldn't agree. There was no way she'd accept me proposing to her. Victoria's face turned beet red with anger. "Sincere, what nonsense are you spouting? Apologize right now and I'll pretend I didn't hear any of this." Sebastian rushed over, grabbing my arm and forcibly pushing me toward Victoria. "Sincere, what's wrong with you? Didn't you agree to propose to Victoria tonight? Why are you bothering Miss Vivian? She's way out of your league." I chuckled and said, "I never had any intention of proposing to Victoria. We grew up together. Even rabbits don't eat the grass near their burrow. Dating her for fun is one thing, but actually marrying her? That's terrifying." Victoria stared at me in shock, as if she couldn't believe the words coming out of my mouth. Sebastian stammered, "What nonsense are you talking about? You've always told me how much you love Victoria, that you'd marry no one but her." Feigning confusion, I glanced at him and said, "Elder, what are you talking about? I just saw you kissing Victoria in the dressing room earlier." Sebastian's face turned ashen, then bright red. He stammered, "It's not what you think. Everyone in the room was smart enough to figure out what was going on." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Someone said, "I've always heard that the second son of the family is treated poorly, but I didn't expect it to be this bad. Getting set up by his own brother at a banquet." Another chimed in, "Unbelievable. I couldn't even begin to imagine. What would I do if he really proposed?" Another voice chimed in, "But now, he's directly proposing to Princess Vivian. Isn't this just asking for humiliation?" I overheard the murmurs of passers-by, and my heart sank, though I tried to brush it off. It didn't matter. After all, I had toyed with Vivian's feelings in the past. If she were to humiliate me in public now, it would only be karma. Vivian stared at me for a long while. Finally, she extended her hand and placed it in mine. Fixing her gaze on me, she said, "Then let's go home." I froze, instinctively pulling Vivian along as we headed out. Victoria's face darkened instantly. "Enough, Sincere. Stop pretending. Isn't marrying me what you've always wanted? Is this some kind of reverse psychology?" She sneered coldly. "I'm not falling for it. Lady Vivian, whatever he just said to you, it's all lies. This guy is a scumbag with a mouth full of deceit. Don't believe him." The live comments burst into life. "Oh no, Vivian's dark side is about to spike again. She probably wanted to let things go and start fresh with Junior, but now the basement chains are getting thicker. Junior, may the heavens bless you." I was about to turn and snap back at Victoria, but Vivian pulled me closer, her gaze icy. "I've never scolded him." "What gives you the right to?" she said. Before we even made it home, just moments after getting in the car, Vivian climbed onto my lap. My pulse raced uncontrollably. Just as I was about to reach for her, she stopped me. "Do you think I'm still as gullible as before," she said, "that I'd just come running to you the moment you beckoned?" The live comments erupted again. "Oh, sure, big talk. But your actions are speaking volumes, aren't they?" I sighed. "If you don't believe me, then let's pretend I never proposed. I'll leave." The next second, she slapped me across the face. I was dumbfounded. "Sincere," she said. "Do you think I'm some nightclub? Coming and going as you please? I don't care where you think you're headed. You proposed to me. You're not running away now. Do you know how long I've waited for you, like some pathetic dog? You think you can just play with me and leave?" She bit my arm, guiding my hand downward. "Feel this. Feel how much I've missed you. This is all your fault." The live comments exploded. "Ah, I've been waiting for this moment forever. Junior totally deserves this. That's what you get for kissing Lilith and leaving her behind. With one hand holding mine, Vivian's other hand subtly reached for the glove compartment. The comments went wild. Here it comes, or she's going for the handcuffs. Vivian's been carrying those cuffs around for years, just waiting for this moment to lock Junior in her basement. My back broke out in a cold sweat. If this continued, I might actually end up chained in her basement. Just as the handcuffs were about to snap onto me, I gritted my teeth, steeled myself, and threw my arms around Vivian, kissing her fiercely. Was it my imagination, or did her body temperature suddenly spike in my embrace? I'm not leaving, I said earnestly. I won't leave ever again. I glanced at the handcuffs and sighed. I was wrong before. I shouldn't have hurt you. I know I messed up. Whatever punishment you think I deserve, I'll take it, as long as it makes you happy. I closed my eyes and added, I'll accept any kind of retribution. Vivian tilted her head, discreetly studying my face for signs of insincerity. When she noticed the pale fright in my expression, her gaze softened. Sitting upright, she said, Speaking of punishment, let's go to my place. You remember the address, don't you? Of course, I remembered. 3 years ago, Vivian and I had lived together for 3 months. Back then, after accidentally kissing the wrong person, I was a mess. Vivian's kisses were creative, to say the least. The next morning, I woke up parched and disoriented. She was pure and innocent then. Her cheeks flushed as she said, Last night you kissed me the moment you saw me. I didn't expect you to like me that much. Sincere, I'm your girlfriend now, right? So if we're going to live together, would it be at your place or mine? When I didn't respond, she continued, What's wrong? Don't want to live with me? Actually, I'm not that eager to live together either. But then she added, Wait, who's the one really excited about this? Why do you still look so troubled? Don't tell me you think living together will ruin your chances with other girls. Of course I was troubled. The night before I'd gone to great lengths to get Victoria drunk, only to end up drinking too much myself and kissing the wrong person. And that person happened to be Vivian, the most powerful heiress in the city, someone my father wouldn't dare offend. I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth, terrified her father would skin me alive if he found out. Stammering, I came up with an excuse. We can't be together. We can't live together because I'm not good enough for you. You deserve better. Vivian had laughed. Oh, is that all? Why are you saying such distant things? You love me and I love you. That's all that matters. And just like that, we ended up living together, though it was all based on a misunderstanding. I found every excuse possible to avoid intimacy, insisting on separate rooms. Now, as I nervously stepped back into Vivian's home, it felt like history was repeating itself. We were living together once more. Why wouldn't this count as revisiting old memories? It had been 3 years, yet nothing had changed here. The bedroom I used to stay in was spotless. The flowers I once cared for were still thriving as if I had just left yesterday. I never expected her to keep waiting for me. Unsure of how to face her, I blurted out a random excuse. I'll take a shower first. After showering, I emerged from the bathroom in a bathrobe. The commentary in my head immediately lit up. Junior's so considerate, making sure he's clean before sitting at the table. I rubbed my temples. On the table sat a cup of hot milk. It was Vivian who had warmed it for me. Just as I was about to drink it, the commentary exploded. Here comes my favorite plot twist. That milk definitely has something to help him out. After Junior drinks it, he'll go into overdrive, and the villainess will wring him dry. In the book, Junior turned into a husk within a week and still didn't know what hit him. Realizing this, I quietly set the milk back down. From across the room, I saw Vivian sneaking around on the downstairs sofa. The commentary chimed in again. Lilith is secretly sniffing the flowers Junior gave her for the proposal. She looks so infatuated. Her husband's flowers smell amazing, and she's hiding them like a guilty teenager, scared that Junior might realize she's already forgiven him. Hilarious. How can this villainess be so tsundere? Suddenly I froze. Flowers. Oh no. My heart sank as Vivian pulled a card from the bouquet. On it was written, To Victoria. Vivian was speechless. I was speechless. The commentary fell silent. The world pressed the mute button as we all collectively braced for the sound of Vivian's breaking point. Shit. I completely forgot about this, I thought. The flowers were part of my original plan to propose to Victoria. Of course, the card inside was addressed to her. The commentary quickly picked up again. Oh no, she's about to lose it. Just moments ago, she was smugly sniffing her husband's flowers, even thinking about posting them online. Now the sky's falling. Junior, you've really done it this time. I started contemplating my chances of escaping unscathed. As if sensing my thoughts, Vivian caught me looking at her. Her gaze landed on me, cold and sharp. She casually placed the bouquet aside, rolled her eyes, and said, "Don't let me catch you giving flowers to anyone else again." I stammered, and was about to retreat to my room when I heard the sound of a glass shattering in the living room. Vivian was clutching her chest, her expression pained but tinged with a coquettish undertone. "Can you bring me the suppressant from the bedroom?" she asked softly. Suppressant? The commentary sighed collectively. Liliths who mark someone can never love anyone else again. For 3 years she's been staring at Junior's photos and injecting herself with suppressants. It's said that this phase is incredibly painful, which is why Liliths rarely mark anyone. They're essentially binding their entire life to that person. But no one expected her to mark Junior. Seeing her in such distress, I didn't fetch the suppressant. Instead, I slowly descended the stairs toward her. "Why would you need a suppressant when I'm right here?" I said. "I've already proposed to you and you've accepted. So tonight, let's do what needs to be done. I'll give you whatever you want." Her face flushed as she whispered, "Do you even know what you're saying?" Confidently, I replied, "Of course I do. I may not have done this before, but I know enough to make you happy tonight." I continued, "The flowers were custom made by my elder. He's the one who pushed me to propose to Victoria, but I've regretted it ever since. I never should have left you alone back then. I owe you this much." I pressed her gently against the wall, my hand brushing over the mark she had left on me. "Tonight, we'll settle this once and for all. What do you say?" I kissed her, and to my delight, her ears flushed red. The next second, she tiptoed and returned my kiss. Her gaze became sultry as she murmured, "Sebastian, you asked for this." In the blink of an eye, her tail coiled tightly around my waist. "Big words won't save you," she teased. "I'll give you a chance to run now. Otherwise, even if you beg for mercy later, I won't let you go." I smirked. "We'll see who begs whom." That night I wanted to slap myself for saying such cocky things. No one had warned me that Liliths could use magic to sustain their intensity all night. No one told me. By the end I was sobbing, trying to crawl away, only for Vivian to grab me by the ankle and drag me back. Ultimately, I fulfilled Vivian's desires that night, but my face felt hollowed out from exhaustion. At one point, I even pleaded, "Maybe you should use the suppressant. We have all the time in the world." She, still moving with relentless energy, replied with an innocent yet cruel smile, "Too late." That absurd and chaotic night felt impossibly long. The next morning, dazed and drained, I woke up to find Vivian nestled in my arms. I carefully tried to pull my arm out from under her head, but the movement stirred her awake. She grabbed my arm, her eyes glinting with a dangerous gleam. "What's this? Thinking of running away again?" she asked. Defeated, I muttered. No, not at all." She let out a cold snort and said, "If you still think you prefer older women, that's fine. Every night I'll help you practice slowly until you're satisfied." The live chat exploded into laughter, with comments flooding in. "She's really bothered by that remark, huh? No way, calling a succubus bad at her craft is too much, it's devastating." I'm in tears, just 3 words, "Please spare me." Just then my phone rang. It was Victoria calling. To win back Vivian's trust, I answered the call in front of her. "What's up?" I asked. Victoria paused for a moment before replying, "Why does your voice sound so weak?" I raised my tone as much as I could. "Just get to the point." She snorted coldly and said, I know the person you want to propose to is me. Stop playing hard to get. It's pointless. I'm willing to lower myself and marry you, but on one condition: you must apologize to your brother. You embarrassed him publicly yesterday, and now everyone is criticizing him. He's different from you. He's the future heir to the Sterling Group, and what you did could ruin the family. The Leighton family is hosting a banquet tonight. I want you to publicly admit that you fabricated lies out of jealousy and slandered us. As long as you admit your mistake and apologize to your brother, I'll agree to marry you." I almost laughed out loud at her audacity. "Are you insane? Every word I said last night was true. Why should I apologize?" She retorted indignantly, "Sincere, you're unbelievable. We're being cyberbullied to the point of depression because of all this, and it's all your fault. Don't you feel even a shred of guilt?" I ground my teeth in frustration, thinking about how to curse her out. But then, I had a better idea. If they were going to be so disgusting, a simple insult wouldn't be enough. I needed to retaliate thoroughly and destroy them completely. So I pretended to agree. "Fine, I'll attend the banquet tonight." Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Vivian's expression darken. At some point, she had leaned closer, her tail curling around places it definitely shouldn't. I was speechless. Before Victoria could sense anything was off, I hung up the phone. Vivian lunged at me, biting my shoulder in frustration. What? Regretting being with me, thinking of going back to her? I was just about to push her away when I noticed a comment on the live chat. "Don't be fooled by how angry Raven looks. Deep down, she's super insecure. Her fingers are trembling. She's terrified her hard-won husband might leave her for someone else." Reading that, my movement shifted from pushing her away to pulling her into an embrace. I patted her back soothingly and said, "Who said I'm going to apologize? Do they even deserve it?" Her expression softened slightly. I looked her in the eye and said firmly, "You're coming with me to the banquet tonight. It's time I made things official with you." Since I'd decided to move in with Vivian from now on, I left early to pack up my belongings. When I arrived home, my family was in the middle of lunch. The table was filled with dishes Sebastian liked. Nothing unusual there. It was almost funny. Most families spoiled the youngest child, but in ours it was the opposite. Without saying a word, I went straight to my room to pack. When I came out, my father was drinking whiskey and eating peanuts with Sebastian. Seeing me, he reminded me, "Don't forget to attend the banquet tonight. Publicly apologize to your brother and admit you lied out of jealousy." "Don't give me that look. It's what you should do. I know you've been dating Victoria. She's Lady Victoria, after all. A good match, though not quite suitable for you. After the banquet, break up with her and let your brother have her. He's the Sterling heir, and an alliance with the Victoria family makes more sense." I couldn't be bothered to argue, so I continued packing. My father's temper flared when he saw my silence. He stormed over, grabbed my shoulder and yelled, "Ungrateful brat! You're nothing compared to Sebastian. We wasted all those years raising you." Sebastian sauntered over, playing the hero as always. He pulled my father back and said, "Calm down, Dad. Little brother here just misunderstood. That night, what you saw wasn't real. She got something in her eye and asked me to take a look. It was all a visual misunderstanding." But when my father wasn't looking, he leaned in close and whispered provocatively, "Don't kid yourself. Victoria agreeing to marry you isn't because she likes you. She's just completing a task I gave her. She loves me. We're the perfect match. You're pathetic, sincere. Everything you care about, I've taken from you one by one. Oh, and don't think Vivian will marry you either. I've already had someone tell Lady V that your proposal last night was just to make Victoria jealous. Guess how she'll retaliate. You'll be a laughingstock in our circle for the rest of your life. Not that I care, honestly. Vivian already tried to get back at me last night. It was nothing." I shoved him away, sneering. "You don't need to worry about that." That evening, dressed in a tailored suit, I arrived at the banquet with Vivian on my arm. The venue was already packed. As soon as we entered, Vivian was surrounded by her friends, so I slipped away to a quiet corner. A grating voice sounded from behind me. "Ha ha ha. I can't believe you actually came," Sebastian said, dressed in a classic vintage three-piece suit. This was originally left for me by my grandfather when he passed away. But the moment Sebastian laid eyes on it, he said he liked it. My father, without asking me, gave it to him. It doesn't even fit him properly, but he insists on wearing it just to provoke me. He looked me up and down, then sneered coldly. I didn't think you'd actually show up. Looks like you're truly desperate. You'll do anything to marry Victoria, won't you? Too bad. To her, you're nothing more than a lapdog at her beck and call. She agreed to marry you only because she had to stomach her disgust to complete my task. You really should know your place and stop coveting things that don't belong to you, don't you think? I chuckled lightly and replied. Aren't you afraid I won't help clear your name in front of everyone? Sebastian's expression darkened. That's not for you to decide, he said, before suddenly stepping forward and grabbing me by the throat with one hand. I took a step back and delivered a punch straight to his face. It didn't feel like I used much strength, but he staggered back several steps before falling heavily to the ground. Sebastian grimaced in pain and shouted loudly, Brother, there's nothing going on between me and Victoria. Why are you so hostile toward me? His voice was so loud that it drew the attention of most of the guests at the banquet. Victoria pushed me aside and rushed to his side immediately, helping him up. She looked at me with utter disappointment and said, Sincere, I know you've always been jealous of your brother. It's bad enough that you've been spreading rumors to slander him, but now you've resorted to violence? Do you have any idea that an elder brother is like a father figure? You've gone too far this time. Apologize to your brother right now. My father, looking utterly exasperated, added, You little brat, you've been at odds with your brother since you were a child. I always suspected you were eyeing his position as the heir to the family, but I never imagined you'd go so far as to harm your own flesh and blood. You're nothing but a greedy, ruthless monster. I should have smothered you the day you were born. The guests began whispering among themselves. So that's what it is. The younger son of the family is trying to seize power and deliberately smear his brother's reputation. What a vile child, bringing shame to the family at such a young age. Vivian walked over to me and looped her arm around mine. She was about to speak when I interrupted her, saying, Don't worry. I'll handle this myself. I took a deep breath and pressed the button on the remote control in my hand. The next second, everyone's attention was drawn to the large screen in the banquet hall. The screen displayed a video of Victoria sitting on Sebastian's lap in a dressing room. Sebastian asked her, I encouraged Sincere to propose to you tonight. You wouldn't have the heart to turn him down, would you? Victoria giggled and replied, If it weren't for how devoted he was to taking care of me 3 years ago when I broke my leg, always at my beck and call, and working hard to win over my mother, I wouldn't have dated him in the first place. To put it nicely, he's a sweet guy. But to be blunt, he's just a lapdog. Over the past 3 years, he's been obedient enough and hasn't proposed to me. If he dares to propose, I'll break up with him immediately. He's the type of boring, unromantic guy who's good for spending money on me. But marrying him? That's terrifying to even think about. In the video, Sebastian smirked and ran a hand up her thigh, saying, So, I'm still the better choice, right? I can show you all sorts of excitement. Victoria blushed and playfully hit him on the chest. The scene became increasingly inappropriate, and soon it was unbearable to watch. The banquet hall fell silent, as if someone had hit the pause button. Victoria's face turned ghostly pale, and Sebastian quickly barked, Who played that? Turn it off, immediately. The guests, who had been whispering about me earlier, quickly changed their tune. The younger son of the family is truly pitiable, having such a brother. Sebastian is disgusting, stealing his own brother's girlfriend. Look at that suit Sebastian is wearing. I remember Sincere's grandfather mentioning he wanted Sincere to have it after he passed. I always had my suspicions about this. The scene devolved into chaos. I felt a wave of satisfaction wash over me. Thankfully, instead of wallowing in despair at the time, I had the presence of mind to record their scandalous behavior. Vivian looked at me with starry eyes. You're amazing, she said. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders and asked, Do you think I was too ruthless? Vivian shook her head and gave me a sly smile. Actually, your methods are still too kind compared to mine. I was speechless. Truly, she lived up to her reputation as a cunning Lilith. Victoria screamed hysterically, "Sincere, so this was all you're doing? How can you be so malicious? You're not even a fraction of your brother's worth. Don't even dream of marrying me in this lifetime." I chuckled coldly. "Miss Victoria, are you delusional? Do you think marrying you is some kind of honor? At this point, it sounds like I'm the one begging you to marry me. But I do have to thank you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have had the chance to meet Vivian." I pulled Vivian closer and formally announced to the crowd, "Let me introduce everyone to my fiancé. We have a date tonight, so please excuse us." The online comments erupted in excitement. Finally, he's officially acknowledged her. The villainous sister must have been waiting forever for this moment. "I'm crying." I felt Vivian's body trembling slightly in my arms. As we stepped out of the banquet hall, she eagerly hooked her arms around my neck and kissed me. Burying her head against my chest, she sighed softly, "Sincere, at last you are mine." Later, I heard that Victoria had been expelled from the Victoria family for offending the Vivian family. I assumed she must despise me now, but to my surprise, she sought me out herself. When she saw me, her eyes lit up briefly. She asked, "Are you with Vivian just to spite me?" I chuckled and replied, "Where does your confidence come from?" With a serious expression, she said, "I don't believe it. You've liked me for so long. How could you just let go so easily? You're lying to me." As she spoke, she leaned closer, grabbing my arm, but I pushed her away. I said, "I admit I was wrong before. My mistake was chasing after you with no dignity. You enjoyed my attention while mocking me behind my back as your lapdog. Victoria, do you really think you're that noble?" I continued, "But for my mistakes, I'll pay the price. And please, don't show up in front of me ever again." Something occurred to me and I suddenly laughed. "Victoria, are you saying all this now because you've been cast out of the Victoria family? Are you hoping I'll help you speak to the Vivian family, plead on your behalf?" Her face turned pale instantly. I had struck a nerve. I twisted the knife further. "Sorry to disappoint you, but not only will I refuse to plead for you, I'll add fuel to the fire and ensure the Vivian family continues to make your life miserable. You probably still have some savings left, right? Don't worry. Soon enough, you'll have nothing left." Victoria couldn't hold back her emotions any longer and burst into tears. She choked out, "Sincere, how can you be so cruel?" She blocked the door, reluctant to leave until the bodyguards dragged her away, cursing under their breath. After the Sincere family offended the Vivian family, we too fell from grace. My elder brother's reputation within the circle was utterly ruined. Victoria blamed him for everything, and though they were forced to stay together due to external pressures, she never stopped berating him. She nagged him every day, calling him useless for failing to provide the life she wanted. Eventually, Victoria reverted to her old ways and became a wealthy businessman's mistress. Sebastian found out, and he finally snapped. In a fit of rage, he stabbed her and was subsequently detained. But by that point, none of it mattered to me anymore. After leaving the Sincere family, I started a business selling certain products. I found success both in love and in my career. While developing the second batch of product designs, Vivian seriously offered me her suggestions. That evening, we tested the products all night. All in all, don't waste most of your time on someone who doesn't love you back. Instead, love someone who is inherently great.